Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always excited to dive in.
Well, today we're tackling the science of sleep.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, specifically, we're comparing the effectiveness and safety of sleeping pills
Okay.
to alternative therapies for insomnia.
Got it.
Our main source for this one is Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep.
A fascinating read.
It is.
Yeah.
So if you've ever, tossed and turned all night,
Mm,
considered reaching for a sleep aid,
yeah, sure.
or just found the whole sleep thing a bit of a mystery,
Yeah.
this deep dive is for you.
Sleep is something we all do, but it's often so misunderstood.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
And it's something that a lot of us struggle with.
for sure.
It's wild to think that almost 10 million Americans rely on sleeping pills each month.
Wow.
You'd think with all that help, we'd be a nation of well-rested folks, right?
Right, you would think,
Oh,
but
man.
that's where things get a little tricky.
Yeah.
Sleeping pills, they don't actually create natural sleep.
Oh, really?
They act more like sedatives.
So more like hitting the off switch
Yes.
rather than gently easing into sleep.
Exactly. That's a great analogy.
Okay.
Um, think of it this way.
Okay.
Sleeping pills, they target similar brain systems as alcohol.
Oh, wow.
They essentially suppress brain activity,
Okay.
so they're preventing neurons from firing.
Interesting.
But you see, natural sleep is so much more nuanced
Yeah.
than just switching off.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, alcohol doesn't exactly leave you feeling refreshed in the morning.
Not usually.
No.
No, not really.
And the same principle kind of applies to sleeping pills.
Mm-hmm.
The electrical brainwave patterns during sleep induced by pills,
Okay.
they lack the intricate architecture of natural sleep.
Okay.
You miss out on those crucial,
Yeah.
deep, slow waves that we call delta waves
Oh.
that are so essential for the restorative power of sleep.
So you're technically unconscious,
Yes,
but your brain isn't getting the deep clean it needs.
nicely.
Okay.
It's like cleaning your house by just shoving everything in a closet. Oh, right.
Yeah, it might look tidy on the surface,
Yeah.
but it's not truly organized and functional.
Yeah. You're not really cleaning.
Right.
You're just hiding the mess.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's the added baggage of side effects with sleeping pills.
Ooh, of course.
I know people who complain about next day grogginess,
Yeah.
memory issues,
Mm-hmm.
even weird sleepwalking-like behavior.
Yeah. Those are common complaints, unfortunately.
Really?
And the slower reaction times caused by sleeping pills, they can be downright dangerous.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Imagine driving or operating machinery
Oh, God.
while feeling that way.
Scary to think about.
It really is.
Plus, that grogginess can lead to a vicious cycle
Yeah.
of needing more caffeine during the day,
Exactly.
which then makes it harder to fall asleep at night.
It's a trap many people fall into.
It is.
And then we have the rebound effect to consider,
Okay.
which is one of the biggest concerns with sleeping pills
Oh, really?
when people try to stop taking them.
Yeah.
Their insomnia often comes back with a vengeance,
Oh, wow.
sometimes even worse than before.
So almost like the brain is rebelling against being forced to sleep.
In a way, yes.
Interesting.
The brain is this remarkable organ
Yeah.
that constantly strives for balance
Uh-huh.
when you introduce a drug
Right.
that alters its natural chemistry.
Yeah.
It tries to
Yeah.
compensate.
Mm-hmm.
So when you abruptly stop taking sleeping pills,
Okay.
the brain's left in this hypersensitive state,
Oh, wow.
leading to that rebound insomnia.
So ironically, people become reliant on sleeping pills.
Right.
Even if the pills aren't providing truly restorative sleep.
That's the paradox.
Wow.
And it highlights the importance of understanding the underlying mechanisms of sleep
Okay.
and exploring alternative, more sustainable solutions.
Speaking of solutions, I was fascinated by a large-scale study mentioned in Walker's book
Yes.
that looked at the effectiveness of sleeping pills compared to placebos.
Yes. The power of the placebo effect.
It's a fascinating phenomenon.
It is indeed.
The study involved a whopping 65 trials with over 4,500 participants.
Okay.
And get this, both the sleeping pills and the placebos help people fall asleep faster,
Really?
about 10 to 30 minutes faster.
Wow.
But here's the kicker. There was no statistically significant difference between the two.
The mind is a powerful tool.
It is.
When we believe something will help us sleep, it often does.
Sure.
Even if it's just a sugar pill.
So in essence, we might be tricking ourselves into thinking sleeping pills are more effective than they really are.
It's definitely a possibility.
Okay.
The subjective experience of feeling like you slept better
Mm-hmm.
be very persuasive,
Yeah,
but it's crucial to look at the objective data
right.
and consider those potential long-term consequences.
Which is what makes Walker's insights so valuable.
I agree.
He really urges us to think beyond the quick fix
Yeah.
and prioritize sleep health.
Absolutely. Sleep is not something to be manipulated or forced.
Okay.
It's this fundamental biological need that deserves our respect
I like that.
and attention.
Well said. And that leads us to some potentially unsettling research
Yes.
that sheds light on the potential downsides of relying on those quick fixes.
Indeed, we need to discuss the work of Dr. Daniel Kripke,
Okay.
a physician at the University of California, San Diego, who has conducted extensive research on the long-term effects of sleeping pill use.
This is where things get a little less dreamy, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, no.
Kripke's research has uncovered
Oh, hey.
some rather alarming connections between sleeping pills
Okay.
and increased risks of death and even cancer.
Whoa, that escalated quickly.
It did.
How did he even stumble upon this?
Well, in the early 2000s, prescriptions for sleeping pills began to skyrocket,
Oh, wow.
creating this wealth of data for analysis.
Interesting.
Kripke and his team delved into these massive epidemiological databases,
Okay.
searching for correlations between sleeping pill use
Mm-hmm.
and various health outcomes.
And what did they find?
The data consistently pointed to a troubling trend.
Oh.
People taking sleeping pills were significantly more likely to die over the study periods
Oh, wow.
compared to those who weren't using them.
Wow. Okay. Okay. This is unsettling. Were these initial studies able to determine exactly why this was happening?
At first, it was challenging to draw clear conclusions. But by 2012, Kripke and his colleagues had gathered enough data to conduct a more robust study involving over 30,000 participants. This study really shook things up.
I can imagine. So what did they uncover in this larger study?
The findings were quite stark. Individuals taking sleeping pills were 4.6 times more likely to die over a 2.5-year period than those who weren't using sleeping pills.
4.6 times. That's a staggering difference.
It is. And even more concerning is that even occasional users, those taking as few as 18 pills a year, still had a 3.6 times higher risk of death.
So it's not just about chronic heavy use. Anyone taking sleeping pills could be at risk.
It seems that way. The study also revealed that heavy users, those taking 132 or more pills per year, had a 5.3 times greater risk. It appears to be a dose-dependent relationship. The more pills you take, the higher the risk climbs.
This is pretty disturbing. Did the study offer any insights into what might be causing these deaths?
Pinpointing specific causes was tricky, based solely on the data, but several possibilities emerged. One theory is that sleeping pills might increase susceptibility to infections.
How could sleeping pills make someone more vulnerable to infections?
Well, as Matthew Walker emphasizes in his book, natural sleep is a powerful immune booster. It helps our bodies fight off infections. Effectively, sleeping pills, however, don't provide that same level of immune support. They disrupt the intricate sleep architecture needed for optimal immune function.
So by messing with our natural sleep patterns, we're essentially weakening our body's defenses.
Precisely. And this is especially worrisome for older adults who are already more susceptible to infections and also happen to be the heaviest users of sleeping pills.
That's a dangerous combination. Were there any other potential causes of death linked to sleeping pill use in the study?
Yes, the study also found a higher risk of fatal car accidents among those taking sleeping pills.
That makes sense. We've already discussed how sleeping pills can cause grogginess and impair reaction time, not exactly ideal when you're behind the wheel.
Absolutely. Driving under the influence of sleeping pills can be just as dangerous as driving under the influence of alcohol. The study also suggested a heightened risk of nighttime falls, particularly among the elderly, which again could be attributed to the lingering side effects of these medications.
So we're seeing a pattern here. Sleeping pills seem to be increasing the risk of a range of potentially fatal events. What about the cancer connection? Is there evidence to back that up?
Kripke's research also revealed that individuals taking sleeping pills were 30 to 40% more likely to develop cancer during the 2.5-year study period.
Wow, that's a significant increase. Were there specific types of cancer they were more prone to?
The study didn't specify particular types, but it did note that users of older sleeping medications like temazepam had an even stronger correlation with cancer risk. Those on mild to moderate doses experienced more than a 60% increased risk, while those on the highest doses face an even greater risk.
So the type of sleeping pill and the dosage could both be factors in cancer risk.
Potentially. And what's intriguing is that even animal studies conducted by the pharmaceutical companies themselves hinted at a possible carcinogenic link, while the data is somewhat obscured. It appears that higher rates of cancer emerged in rats and mice, given these commonly prescribed sleeping pills.
So we have human studies and animal studies both raising red flags about a potential connection between sleeping pills and cancer. That's pretty compelling, but is it conclusive?
Not necessarily. It's essential to remember that correlation doesn't equal causation. Other factors could be at play, for instance. It's possible that the underlying sleep problems that led individuals to take sleeping pills in the first place are the true culprits, not the pills themselves.
So it might be the conditions being treated, not the treatment itself.
Exactly, however. We can't rule out the possibility that sleeping pills do directly contribute to these health risks to get a definitive answer. We'd need a clinical trial specifically designed to test the potential lethal and carcinogenic effects of these medications.
That makes sense, but designing such a trial presents some ethical challenges, right?
It does, given the existing evidence. It would be ethically questionable to conduct a trial that intentionally exposes participants to potentially harmful substances, even for research purposes.
That's a tough call. It highlights the need for more transparency from pharmaceutical companies about the potential risks associated with these medications so patients can make truly informed decisions.
I agree. Patients deserve a comprehensive understanding of both the potential benefits and potential harms of any medication they're considering.
Absolutely. So, where do we go from here? If sleeping pills carry these risks, what are the alternatives for people struggling with insomnia?
Fortunately, there are safer and more effective options available. One that's gaining increasing recognition is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI.
Okay, let's dive into the CBTI thing. What exactly is it?
It's a type of therapy that helps individuals identify and break bad sleep habits, manage anxieties, and establish healthier sleep patterns.
So instead of masking the problem with medication, CBTI aims to tackle the root causes of insomnia.
Precisely, it involves working with a therapist, typically for several weeks, to develop personalized strategies for improving sleep. It's about retraining your brain and body to sleep well naturally.
That sounds promising. What are some of the key techniques used in CBTI?
CBTI incorporates basic sleep hygiene principles like reducing caffeine and alcohol intake, creating a relaxing sleep environment, and sticking to a consistent sleep schedule.
Those are all things we've heard before. What makes CBTI unique?
One particularly interesting technique is sleep restriction therapy. It might sound counterintuitive, but it involves initially limiting the amount of time you spend in bed.
Wait, so you're intentionally making yourself more sleep deprived?
In a controlled way, yes. The idea is to build up sleep pressure, making you more tired and therefore more likely to fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer.
So you're sort of resetting your sleep drive.
That's a good way to put it. And as you start experiencing more consistent sleep, the time spent in bed is gradually increased. Another key component of CBTI is addressing any anxieties or worries that might be interfering with sleep. This could involve relaxation techniques, mindfulness exercises, or cognitive restructuring to challenge negative thought patterns.
It's a holistic approach, then, tackling both the behavioral and psychological aspects of insomnia.
Exactly. It's not just about changing your sleep habits, it's about changing your relationship with sleep.
But the big question is, does it actually work?
The research is very encouraging. Numerous studies have shown that CBTI is highly effective in helping people fall asleep faster, sleep longer, and experience significantly better sleep quality.
And how does it stack up against sleeping pills in terms of long-term benefits?
That's where CBTI really shines. The benefits tend to persist long after therapy ends, unlike sleeping pills, which often lead to that pesky rebound insomnia when you stop taking them. CBTI provides lasting improvements. You're essentially equipping yourself with the skills and knowledge to manage your sleep independently.
So it's more sustainable. You're not relying on a crutch. No wonder the American College of Physicians now recommends CBTI as the first-line treatment for chronic insomnia, even over sleeping pills.
It's a major shift in the medical community's approach to insomnia. There's a growing recognition that CBTI is not only effective, but also safer in the long run.
That's great news. So if someone is struggling with insomnia, their first step should be to explore CBTI before even considering medication.
Absolutely. There are resources available to help individuals find qualified CBTI therapists. The National Sleep Foundation website is an excellent place to start. We'll be sure to include that link in the show notes for this episode.
Perfect. What about those of us who aren't necessarily battling insomnia but just want to improve our sleep in general? Any tips for us?
Of course, one of the most fundamental things is maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, even on weekends. Try your best to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day to regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle.
Easier said than done sometimes, but I know it makes a difference.
Regular exercise is also a fantastic sleep enhancer. Just avoid intense workouts too close to bedtime, as they can make it harder to wind down.
And what about diet? I'm guessing avoiding heavy meals and sugary snacks before bed is a good idea.
Got it. Those could disrupt your sleep and lead to restless nights. Matthew Walker goes into detail in his book about the fascinating connection between our gut microbiome and sleep.
Fascinating. We could do a whole deep dives just on that. It seems like we're learning more and more about how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
Sleep, diet, exercise, mental health.
Absolutely. It's all part of this intricate web we call well-being.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the mechanisms of sleep to the potential risks of sleeping pills and the promising alternative of CBTI.
We've only just scratched the surface, really.
I know, right?
Matthew Walker's book goes so much deeper into the science of sleep and its profound impact on every aspect of our lives.
It's a fascinating read. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to understand the importance of sleep and how to prioritize it.
I second that.
Yeah,
Sleep is not a luxury.
right.
It's a fundamental biological need, just like eating, drinking, and breathing.
It's an investment in our physical and mental health, our productivity, our relationships, everything.
Precisely. When we shortchange ourselves on sleep,
Yeah.
we're shortchanging our overall well-being.
So true. And while those quick fix solutions like sleeping pills might seem tempting,
Right.
we've learned that they often come with more baggage than benefits.
There's a much healthier and more sustainable path to better sleep.
For sure.
It starts with understanding the science, making informed choices, and prioritizing those healthy habits that support restful sleep.
I think a key takeaway for me is that we have more control over our sleep than we often realize.
I agree. We have the power to make positive changes that can dramatically improve our sleep quality and, in turn, enhance our overall health and well-being.
So to wrap things up, where do we go from here? What's the next step for our listeners who are ready to embrace a healthier relationship with sleep?
I'd say start by paying attention to your sleep patterns. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you waking up feeling refreshed? If not, don't ignore those signs. Explore those resources we mentioned for finding qualified CBTI therapists. And remember, even small changes to your daily routine can make a big difference.
Great advice, and keep that copy of Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep handy.
Yeah,
It's a treasure trove of information.
it really is. The more we learn about sleep, the more we appreciate its profound impact on our lives.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to sign off and practice what we preach.
I couldn't agree more.
To all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of sleep. Stay curious, keep learning, and sweet dreams.